Sorry about that. All right, this is Sports for Real. I just did a video on Zoom, and anytime I do a live video on Zoom, I like to go back and recap live this way to make sure that what I said got out. A little bit shorter this time, went for maybe 15, 20 minutes on that last one. I'm not going to talk so much this time. Just a couple of things. Ryan Garcia, he got the news from the New York Boxing Commission that he's going to be banned for a whole year. If you recall, about 2 months ago, he had that big fight with Devin Haney. Was supposed to be for a championship, but the fight was deemed not to be for the championship because Garcia couldn't make weight. And then even though he didn't make weight, he still got into the ring, and he was 3 pounds heavier than Haney. You don't think that makes a whole lot of difference, but you got to realize once these guys make weight, then they can go ahead and gain weight or do whatever it is they want to do. A lot of guys pick up another 5 or 6 pounds because they start eating and drinking water or whatever they do to get ready for the fight. But to come in at the weigh-in already 3 pounds over, that can be a problem. Now, it was already deemed to be a possible issue before the fight because it's a bet between the two guys that for every pound that Garcia came over, he would have to pay Haney, I believe, $500,000. Being that he was 3 pounds over, he paid Haney 1.5, and they actually paid him. So to make a deal like that, when you know that you're going to come in overweight, knowing ahead of time that you're going to come in overweight leads me to believe that that's the last thing you were concerned about. It's supposed to be about championships, but you're not concerned about that because you got other things in mind. Well, as it turns out, he was using a banned substance. He got popped before the fight. He got popped after the fight. They tested it, and after testing it again after the fight, it was found that he had osterone. Osterone, I think that's the name of it, the banned substance. And what that does is it makes a gorilla out of you, where when you are one-on-one with somebody and you're equal, it's going to give you the extra confidence and extra strength to overcome what you normally would have. Beat Haney up all up around the ring that night, but Haney, it just didn't seem quite right. And then given the erratic behavior that Garcia was displaying leading up to the fight, it only makes sense that he was hyped up on something. And that's been proven. So he's going to be out of boxing for a year. And he says that he's going to go fight in the UFC to keep himself sharp. So when he comes back, he can have a few more skills and he's going to go from there. But the first thing he needs to do is to go fight Haney. That's if Haney is going to fight him. Also, along with this suspension, the fight win over Haney is going to be vacated. It's almost like it's deemed a no contest, which means it doesn't count. So Haney's undefeated record is restored. Whether or not Haney would trust Garcia to fight again is another question. But Garcia has to prove to everybody that he can step into the ring with a guy like Haney and fight like he did that night when he beat up Haney pretty good. Haney, on the other hand, he has to go in there and show people that only the drugs was the reason I lost to Garcia. So I don't think they're ever going to meet in the ring again before the public's eyes. I think what he should do is find a neutral location, have a ring put up, closed to the public, and they get in the ring and they resolve it right then. But one way or another, Haney has to step into the ring with Garcia. Now, last time we saw Garcia was at the fight last week with Tank Davis and Frank Martin, and he jumping up on the ring and congratulating the man and hugging and talking about he want to fight again. Well, Davis already whipped you one time. Why do you want to get back in the ring with him? I have no idea. But I don't see that happening either. Maybe he's going to go down and fight somebody like Conor McGregor and get a big payday. It'll draw a big crowd, and as well it should. But, people just want to see a fight, and they don't want to see their fighters all hyped up on dope. But the behavior that he had during the fight was questionable to begin with, and it made people start to think, well, maybe this guy's hyped up on something, and it's been proven. But speaking of erratic behavior, I saw the Pivot podcast the other day that had Antonio Brown on there, and as usual, he had some erratic behavior, and he's the kind of guy that's hard to interview because when you ask him a question, he'll give you somewhat of an answer, and then if you try to move on to another question, then he starts to interject and go off in some other direction before you even finish the question. So pretty much he's controlling the interview with his behavior. But there were times of clarity during this interview with the Pivot where it came up that first they were talking about whether or not Brown should be in the Hall of Fame based on his numbers. And he said that only his numbers should count. What he does off the field shouldn't count. Then he shifted over to start talking about how he's free to do and say what he wants to do, unlike those guys on the Pivot, because they have partners. And because they have partners, they can only say with certain things or they run the risk of losing their partnerships. Well, there's truth there. But then Fred Taylor came right back. Captain Foxy the Pirate, how you doing? There's some truth to that. But Fred Taylor came back with the perfect comeback. He said, well, you say, well, we can't say what we want to say, and it matters what we say. But he was alluding to the fact that you just said you can do what you want to do, and it shouldn't affect your numbers. So he was building up to ask him, well, how is it that you can do what you want to do and it shouldn't affect your Hall of Fame potential? But where Taylor fell down on, he didn't pin him down specifically. He said, your behavior, the things you've done. Well, what things has he done, Fred? Why don't you say, look, man, the things you did while you were playing football, the last we saw you getting in arguments with teammates, cussing out your coaches, and the last time we saw you, you taking off your uniform and you running out the stadium in the middle of a game. That makes people think you crazy. They didn't say that, but that's what they should have said, because in Brown's mind, he hasn't done anything. So until you tell him specifically what it is that people question about him, he's not going to consider it. And sure enough, they didn't ask him that. Clark came and tried to ask the same question. He kept saying the same things you've done. Channing Crowder did the same thing, the things you've done. They didn't say people think you crazy by the way that you acted out on the field, especially when we saw you last time. We think you nuts. So when it comes down to the Hall of Fame voting, they're going to remember these things because these are humans voting. No, it shouldn't matter what you do off the field, because there are a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame done some egregious stuff. But the humans remember the last thing you did. So when it comes time for Antonio Brown to get on the ballot, they're going to remember his erratic behavior, and most of them are probably going to say he does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So it was a great lead up to the question that wasn't fully asked, but they were right there on track with that, and I give Taylor credit for trying to pin Brown to that, but he kind of, with the way he asked the question, he kind of let him off the hook. But unless it's been proven that Brown had CTE, say, 30 years down the road, I just don't see that Brown's going to be able to make it into the Hall of Fame, because people remember the last thing you did. And because the way the rules are changing and it's going to become more wide open and these guys are going to be having these lofty numbers, it looks like they could have played in any era. You older guys, we know that's not the same, because a lot of these guys are just like glass. You hit them, they're going to break. They come across the middle with no pads on. They wouldn't last if you allowed the defense to actually play football and hit these guys like they've done for 70 of 80 of the 100 years the league been in existence. All this new stuff, we're letting the guys run through the middle of the field with no contact. You hit them and you want to throw a guy out the game because he made a perfect form tackle. And that hasn't been the history of football. But because of that, there's no fear in going across the middle, and it's just going to keep racking up yards, and it's going to look like, hey, this guy is the greatest in the world, because look at all these yards he's got. Never mind, and he's playing 17 regular season games when, say, Paul Warfield might have played 12 or 14. When he had to play bump and run coverage, his numbers aren't that great. My numbers are better than Paul Warfield. Well, of course, because you get a chance to do what Warfield could not do. But like I say, unless CT is discovered in Antonio Brown, I think the image, the public perception of him acting like a nut is going to work against him. Now, speaking of these younger players, you see that the Boston Celtics, they won their 18th championship the other day, and that is one more than the Lakers. Magic Johnson, he came out and said, well, congratulations to the Lakers, but not the Lakers, but the Celtics. Congratulations to them, but it should have been the Lakers. The Celtics should not be ahead of the Lakers. He's clearly telling you that he still cares about it, and guys of his era cares about it, but I don't think that the modern players today really care about that. Yes, they all want to win a championship, but when you consider how much money they're making, whether they won a championship or not is irrelevant. You can see it in the way that they perform during the regular season. You take a Kareem or a Magic. These guys came to the floor every night, 82-game season, and they turned it on during the playoffs. But now, these guys, they got games blocked off where they're not going to play because they're going to save their body. Here you are making more money than anybody ever played, but you talking about you're going to save your body. Now, what does that matter to a fan? Well, don't matter to me because, I have a different setup than most people. But let me give you an example. I've heard by being around kids, they talk about weeks or months in advance, they're going to go down to Orlando, they're going to see the Magic play. But when they see the Magic play, they're going to play the Lakers. And my dad got me some tickets, and I'm going to go to this game, and it's going to be great. They go down to see the Lakers play the Magic, and then when they get there, the person that they want to see, say LeBron, he's not playing tonight. He's not hurt, he's just not playing. So here's this kid's been all hyped up and excited to go see LeBron play with the Lakers against the Magic, and then he doesn't play. Meanwhile, the ticket prices, they didn't change. Concession stand is still sky high. It's a win-win for the league, but that kid who wanted to see his best player play, he don't get that opportunity because the guy, he's so concerned about his fragile body that, you don't want to play. I think there's something wrong with that. But when you get a guy that's making $200 million a year per se, that's just a number I'm throwing out. He doesn't care because, it's all about him. He doesn't care about that dad who's been saving up 6 months to take his kid to the game to see you play, and then you decide you don't want to play that night just because. So I just think something's wrong with that, but that is the mindset of the modern player. And when you get a guy like Johnson, even though he's been out of the league for, let's just say 30 years he hadn't played, he still care about beating the Celtics. But you don't have the same thing with these modern players. And for the fact that the Celtics won, that's going to eat at him until the Lakers are able to get back ahead of them in the championship race. But the other thing about the NBA Finals, I talked about it building up. You can't tell me that it doesn't stink. Here the Celtics pretty much beating the Mavericks every way, and they have their way with them and beat them when they get ready, especially down the stretch. They just couldn't handle them. They go up 3-0. With a 3-0 lead, you think they're going to close out or give you their best effort, right? No. They get beat by 38 points. How is it that I'm the best team in the league? I've been the best team all night, and when it's time for me to really play to win the championship, I get beat by 38. You can't tell me that the league didn't call the Celtics and say, look, lay off. Let the Mavericks win one. We need ratings. We need at least one more game. And you play one more game, it's going to be worth millions to the league. And of course, it's going to trickle down to you. So go ahead and let the Mavericks win one. Then you come back in game 5 after doing that, and then you beat the Mavericks by almost 20. So how you go from losing by 38 to winning by 18? Come on, man. You can't tell me that there's no fix there. Now, I've been mentioning this, and it's the first time I spoke on that since I said that 2 weeks ago. I got a comment from a guy, his name is Caden F. And he say, WTF, what are you talking about? How can there be a conspiracy? Nobody in the NBA has ever said that it's a fix-in. And if that's the case, then why do you watch? Well, people watch for various reasons. Number one, they may have a relative playing, or you could have been a Celtics fan for 60 years of your life, or your cousin plays for the Mavericks, or you got a bet because you got a feeling about how you think this thing is choreographed. There are a lot of reasons why people watch, but it's mainly entertaining. But as far as having a player come out and say something about it, I just happened to catch an interview from Shaq a couple years ago where he called the NBA, he says it stands for nothing but acting. There's a lot of things you can get from that statement, but for a guy like Shaq, commentator, a Hall of Fame player, to come out and say the NBA is nothing but acting, it makes one think. Well, look at all the flop calls they get called. Look at all the perfect games the officials call until the last 2 minutes. All of a sudden, they start blowing the whistle. Or they call a foul on a team with less than a second, knowing that you can't do anything about it if this guy make these free throws. It's all pure entertainment. And then you go back to what I was saying about the guy with the whistle. The players, when they don't decide to play until they want to play, there's a lot of reasons to see how Shaq could mean when he says nothing but acting. There's a lot of smelly odors coming out of the NBA area, and you can't tell me that I'm wrong because it's all about money. And for every game that the NBA Finals goes, it makes millions of dollars. Now, as far as the Celtics are concerned, I would be concerned if I'm the Celtics if the league tells me to throw the game if I'm up 3-0, because it gives that guy life. Take what's going on in hockey right now. The Florida Panthers were up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals. One more game, it's over. They lose game 4. Edmonton's still alive. Okay, we're going to go to game 5. Play game 5. Edmonton knocks them off again. Now you got a series. It's 3-2. Then last night, Edmonton beat them again. 5-1. Seems like it's a big problem now. So it's going to come down to game 7. Only way Florida can win this game if they come out and proverbially hits Edmonton in the mouth to back them up, to let them know, look here, we ain't going out like that. Just like you said you weren't going out to be swept, we're not going out like that either. And by them getting all the way to game 7 is a great accomplishment. But the fact that the Panthers didn't close them out put themselves in jeopardy of not winning this championship. Same thing could have easily happened to the Celtics. Yeah, they won the first 3 games, but it wasn't by any wide margin. And after getting blown out in game 4, hey, it was very possible that the Mavericks could have came back in game 5 and took that one too. And now the Celtics are going to start tightening up, just like the Panthers. So when you get a team down, you want to kill them. You don't want to be controlled by the league office. Now, of course, the league office will come back and say, no, there's no truth to that. And you got fans who really believe that money doesn't play a factor in all of this. And the evidence is all around you. So the fact that Magic Johnson came out is a breath of fresh air and say, look, I prefer the Lakers to be winning these championships, not the Celtics. And even though the Celtics really have been outclassing the Lakers over the history of the league, because if you look at the 18 championships, they probably got about 10 over the Lakers. So Celtics have been a better organization than the Lakers. So, but it's a lot to be questioned about the NBA. And finally, I talked about the game between the Cardinals and the Giants Thursday night at Rickwood Field in Birmingham. This was a celebration of the Negro Leagues, and it's a very important location because not only is it the oldest ballpark in the nation, over 100 Hall of Famers have played there. And when you start talking about the Negro Leagues, it has a deep history there. Guys like Larry Doby to Hank Aaron, and now the late Willie Mays. Willie Mays just happened to grow up in the area of Rickwood Field, so he grew up playing there. So it had a deep connection to him. And just so happened, he was supposed to be there on Thursday night, but as fate would have it, he passed on Tuesday. So he was 2 days short of missing that great occasion for him. Just like Game 3 of the NBA Finals was supposed to celebrate Jerry West, he died that same day, and the same thing happened to Willie Mays. Just happened to be 93 years old, and if you go back and look at the other video I did on Zoom, again, I don't know if that went out or not, but in the background I have a picture of him sliding home. He's known for having speed, having a good bat, and making those acrobatic catches, like that one he made in the '54 World Series. And back then, those guys routinely played double and triple headers like it was nothing, because they didn't have a lot of parks didn't have lighting. So when they said that baseball was a national pastime, it's because they were daytime games, and a lot of times, if it got rained out, they'd play 2 games, sometimes 3, based on where they had to travel to, because they flew some. Well, it was a lot of train travel back in the 50s for all sports, and it just wasn't as connected as the way things are right now. But Willie Mays, great player. I just wanted to say, I said that he's from the area, and he was trying to get back to that field. But other players, they had mixed feelings about going there. If you see Reggie Jackson, he said he had some bad memories at Rickwood, and it had something to do with segregation and being the location of Birmingham. That's a pretty rough spot there. And if you go back and look at the history, it's not hard to put together some of the things of what he might be talking about. But it's not just unique to him, it's unique to all of them. And speaking of this particular field, Michael Jordan, when he was playing with the Birmingham Barons, this is their home field, so I'm pretty sure Rickwood, he's played there too. So there's a connection to Jordan there. He spent his time with the Birmingham Barons at Rickwood Field, going all the way back to Hank Aaron, and now the late Willie Mays. He's 93 years old. All right, so just to recap, just talked about 4 things today. Antonio Brown, the question is, does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Numbers-wise, he has a great chance to get in the Hall of Fame, but I think in the end, his erratic behavior, especially toward the end there, is going to keep him out of that, unless it's determined that he had CTE somewhere down the line and may put him in on those circumstances. But if it comes down to just pure human voting, he's not going to get in. I think he mentioned something the other day on that podcast that they won't even put him on the ballot. So if you can't get on the ballot while people remember you, you know it's going to be more and more receivers come through as they convert the NFL to flag football. They're just going to get, his numbers is just going to get lost. And Garcia, he said he's going to fight UFC. A lot of people think he should be banned for life. I don't think he should be banned for life. I think he should be made to stand and fight Haney in front of the world again, whether it's a sanctioned fight or square off in the parking lot somewhere. You got to fight Haney somewhere to see if what he did to him that night was legitimate. The Celtics, 8 teams, a lot of people talking about they're going to repeat. I don't think so. The way these teams be building up to try to beat another team, they'll be strong again. But I think somebody's going to load up to try to take them out. And for them to repeat, I don't think it's going to happen. But they're going to have something to say about it. Rickwood again, legendary Major League Baseball park, Negro League tribute. The Cardinals, by the way, knocked off the Giants with Alabama native, I forget his name, Donovan something. He was the hero of that night. So a lot of motivation there all the way around. Willie Mays passed. A lot going on in the sports world. But the question right now that I have to ask, what will the Florida Panthers do now after losing 3 straight after going up 3-0? Do you have enough heart to get off the canvas to come back for a Game 7, which I believe is at home? Do you have enough heart? And this is why when you get a guy on the canvas, you better kick him, because otherwise you're going to find yourself in the position of the Florida Panthers. All right. All I have one comment today. Captain Foxy the Pirate says, hello. And yes, I'm fine, Mr. Captain. But I got a little ripping and running to do. Hope you guys have a great day. This has been Sports for Real, and I'll keep you posted for whatever is relevant in the sports world. Till next time, I'm out.